Our composer today, Charles-Camille Sanson, is just a very well-known composer, but pretty much for one composition. We all know Carnival of the Animals. We love this composition. We know it most likely since 5th grade. But beyond that, most people are not very much familiar with the life of this composer, nor with many of the other amazing works. And that's what I would like to show you today. And if we most likely don't get through all the material, it's going to be again posted online and Blackboard by, I believe, tomorrow afternoon I would be able to post it all. So he was born in Paris, lived most of his life in Paris. Just at the end of his life, he started traveling a lot, but I will tell you later about it. So in his early upbringing, really very rooted to Paris life and Paris music life. His father passed away when he was just an infant, so he was raised mainly by his mother and by the aunt of his mother. Seems like his aunt was the one who was a fabulous amateur musician who had knowledge of how to play the piano, some little music theory, and she's the one teaching the young Camille Sanson. She's also the one who's recognizing that he had perfect pitch at age 2. So he was humming every melody always on that perfect pitch. Perfect pitch means that you do re-recognize certain tones just by their perfect pitch. So we do establish most of the time the A at 440 hertz, and anybody with perfect pitch will always recognize that A and that particular vibration, because that's what sounds really are. So quite amazing how early. This is even earlier than we hear Mendelssohn or Mozart. By age 10, he is playing a very formal debut concert in a very prestigious venue, the Salle Pleyel. Pleyel was, in the 19th century, one of the greatest piano makers. Chopin, Liszt, Mendelssohn, Kalkbrenner, all of these great famous pianists of the 19th century preferred to play a Pleyel piano. What Pleyel did also wonderful, this maker had kind of like a showroom. Of course, there were several instruments always standing around, and he would organize like piano salon gatherings. And there are some programs printed where we see special compositions were written for 6 pianos. Like you have heard of 4-hand piano compositions, but in this case it's compositions, Salle Pleyel and 6 famous pianists playing all together on 6 different pianos. So that means we have 12-hand compositions, and those pianists included Chopin, Liszt, Mendelssohn, Kalkbrenner, and a few others. Also, what we always find out about this composer is his amazing memory. He apparently was he must have had photographic memory. Otherwise, it's incomprehensible that he was able to memorize 32 of Beethoven's piano sonatas. And especially the later piano sonatas of Beethoven are considered to be some of the most difficult in the piano repertoire. He was apparently able that somebody would call out, play the 3rd movement of piano sonata number 27. And he would be like going through a file cabinet and being able to perform that particular movement. It was so amazing that even a Boston newspaper was reporting about this. Then we hear that he was trained in many other subjects and he had other interests. For example, he learned Latin. He studied entire orchestral scores like Mozart's Don Giovanni. I also should mention Mozart was not necessarily the most popular composer in those days. Mozart had been a little bit forgotten. Beethoven was more popular, but not really Mozart. And to read an orchestral score takes quite a lot of skills. They are so-called transposing instruments where they are written in a different way than, for example, the first violin would be notated. Transposing instruments include the French horn, the oboe, the clarinet. So really where it's complex to read the score, and he is just very young when he's already able to do so. He becomes a piano student of a Viennese pianist who was equally famous in those days to Mendelssohn and Liszt, and the only reason why we don't remember Kalkbrenner in our days is he didn't compose much. But he was a fabulous teacher, and he had a special way of strengthening the muscles and of his students to be quite virtuous player. So we also hear that he was very well connected to some very well-known figures in the music world of his days. Halevi was very much associated with the Paris Grand Opera House. Franz Liszt, who lived in Weimar but was frequently in Paris, was not only the one who urged him to complete Samson and Delilah, but also helped him to find a premiere venue, which was the Grand Theater in Weimar, not Paris. Hector Berlioz, who was the music critic in Paris, became his friend. And really that's what we hear with most of his, the people he got in contact with, they were maybe colleagues, maybe students, maybe teachers, but all of them eventually become his friends. So he must have been, by personality, a very likable gentleman. So then we do see how this gentleman excels as a keyboard player. He not only loves the piano, but also he develops a very strong love for the organ. He's reported by contemporaries to be such an amazing organist that he played amazing improvisations. People would visit the church services just to hear him play. And he held for a long time a position as an organist at the L'Église de la Madeleine in Paris. And I'm sure it had to do just to have access to the beautiful organ of this particular church in Paris. He didn't need to keep this position financially, but he just loved to play the organ in this church of Madeleine. One of the greatest compositions he wrote, and maybe the most known one, is the Danse Macabre. I don't know, have you heard all of the Venezuela Youth Orchestra? I don't know, George Pili, have you heard?
Yes. Yes.
And George, have you heard of the Youth Orchestra from Venezuela?
Yes, I think I've heard it on the radio.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So I don't know, maybe I'd save the time right now not to play it, but make sure that on this slide you click on the YouTube link later on when I post it, because there you will see a great performance of the Venezuela Youth Orchestra under the direction of Gustavo Dudamel.
Yeah, I've heard him on the radio. I heard that group on the radio.
Okay, great. And you will see, because this is a video version, so you see really it's very energetic. beautiful interpretation of this. And if when you hear this work, you right away say, "Oh, yeah, I know this piece," but you just don't know that it's by this composer necessarily. Well, he then starts teaching, and L'École Niedermeyer is a very prestigious school in Paris. Later on, we have Nadia Boulanger teaching there, Aaron Copland studying at the L'École Niedermeyer. So a very prestigious music school in Paris. He starts to be not only a professor of, some of his famous students became Gabriel Fauré is one example. What's interesting about his relationship with Gabriel Fauré, they become also very close friends. Gabriel Fauré we generally recognize as the father of Impressionism in music. And then Camille Saint-Saëns makes often a very clear point of distinguishing that his music style had nothing to do with Impressionism. He, as a matter of fact, didn't like the music of Claude Debussy. But then other works, like when you listen to some, like the Aquarium, one of the movements from Carnival of the Animals, in many ways is very impressionistic. I don't know, sometimes people, how they come to some of these statements, but it's said that Camille Saint-Saëns didn't like Impressionism, even though his student Gabriel Fauré is considered to be the father of Impressionism. Brief note on that he became, the Franco-Prussian War, but it doesn't really concern us today. It has more to do when we listen to his opera. This work, maybe let's save this for our last music sample. Maybe let me play one of the pieces we all know so well of this composer, but we usually don't listen often to this particular work. So let me quick. It's just 2 minutes long, so perfect to enjoy. Here, this is the Swan. What's interesting about this piece is that Gabriel Fauré forbid that this work was to be not, he didn't want to see it published. He felt that this work would overshadow all of his other compositions. And he liked it, of course, but he didn't think that it should get that much attention, and he would have liked to see much more attention drawn towards his other compositions. He was in a way right, because when we are honest, what do we remember most of this composer is, of course, the Carnival of the Animals. Nevertheless, I think it's such a glorious composition, and here the Swan played by no other than Yo-Yo Ma. So enjoy this short little music sample, and for this I'm going to try again to mute the phone line, and please turn on the volume of your computers.
All guests have been muted. All guests have been unmuted.
Hello, everybody.
Yes.
Okay, so it has ended on your end, no?
It has ended, but we were not unmuted.
It's still not working.
No.
Very strange.
I brought my telephone at the other room.
Oh, that's what. Interesting. So on my end now today it worked.
No, it didn't.
So okay, so I will keep bugging them. Sorry about that. So
Don't worry.
New. We think it works. We have been doing this, using this technology for a while, and it always has been working fine. And then it changed something, and then it's always a new learning process. So I will find out what they have changed. So I thought today was going to work, but
don't worry.
Sorry about that. So here, well, we saw the slide. What many people are not aware of is, I mean, if you remember, he learned Latin at a very young age. He knew how to memorize 32 Beethoven sonatas, studied Mozart's scores. And here he shows a lot of expertise and knowledge in other fields too. He was very science-oriented, had knowledge of geology, archaeology, botany, and lepidoptery is the study of butterflies, and acoustics. He wrote philosophical works. An entire volume of poetry. There's one particular, well, apparently as a poet, he, especially after he left Paris, he started to write quite a few volumes of poems under the name of Saint Noir. And there's this one poem, I tried to find it, wasn't able to. Maybe you get more lucky. So if you find it, please let me know, and I would love to post it also online. So called The Dragonfly. Apparently became very well known in Paris in those days. Quite amazing also, he became part of the Astronomical Society. He founded a music society in 1871. I even forgot to post this here on the slide. He later on got even, while the music society moved towards a different direction, and they felt that Camille Saint-Saëns, with his special love for composers of former days, that he was too old-fashioned. He was one of the very few 19th century composers who had a very thorough knowledge of Baroque composers like Handel and Bach. He knew classical composers like Mozart and Beethoven, and that was not given in the 19th century. Mendelssohn tried to revive already Bach's music, but it took really until the 20th century until we really started to rediscover those Baroque composers. So he, what else can I tell you? Well, he got married. He was already a little bit older at the time. They had 2 sons, but unfortunately the marriage was not a happy one. They divorced, well, they never divorced, but they separated. Only after 6 years, they lost 2 of the 2 children. And in 1915, well, after his mother died, that's when he started, and he was separated from his wife, and he lost his 2 children. That's when we see he starts traveling extensively, and he is going to, many different places. South America, Asia. He loves to spend time in Algiers. He is by that time very highly regarded in all over France. He is given the Grand Croix de la Légion d'honneur, and so very, very successful. But most of the time now in the final days, spending his time writing poetry in Algiers. Then make sure also you will listen to his organ symphony. That's a very unique composition. Usually we don't see a symphony in the 19th century connected with the organ as a solo instrument. Handel did this during the Baroque era, and Handel was also one of the greatest organists, what we understand, of his time. Same like Camille Saint-Saëns during the 19th century. But it's not a typical solo instrument, and it's very difficult to see performed. The San Diego Symphony performed it not too long ago when they were finally able to fix the beautiful organ of Copley Hall. And so that was a very exciting day for us here in town. Make sure you listen to this fabulous work too. But now I would like to actually play for you. I'm going to post this in the chat room. I start the first video, and then I will invite you to click on this. It's the whole piano concerto, but it's in 2 segments, and the second one then you can get from the chat window. I think it's the most amazing concerto altogether, and the most amazing performance by Arthur Rubinstein. Arthur Rubinstein died in 1982. I'm not quite sure when this recording was done. Unfortunately, there was no further information given. But I would guess Rubinstein was in his 90s. Must have been shortly before he passed away, or in his late 80s. You don't see any slowness in his virtuosity. He is great as ever. And this concerto is also quite unusual. I'm sure you have heard concertos before. How do they usually start? What would you say? Do the soloists start, or usually the orchestra?
I think the orchestra.
Yeah, George, go ahead.
I think it's the orchestra starts.
That's right. So, and the concerto always has what we call an exposition, where you have usually 2 themes, and it's the orchestra presenting those 2 themes. And then what we call exposition gets repeated, and that's when the soloist repeats both themes and the whole exposition. That's exactly right. When you listen to this concerto, listen how it starts. It's a very unusual beginning. It's almost like it's starting with cadenza, where cadenzas were traditionally where the soloist would start improvising. It's even vague in its key. In the first beginning sounds and notes and measures, Camille Saint-Saëns keeps us kind of in limbo, so to say, regarding the key. So very unusual composition, and one of the most amazing performances here. It's very good quality video, and Rubinstein just really close up, and it's just most amazing. I was so thrilled when I found this concerto with Arthur Rubinstein, and then even in video version. So let me load it, and then, like I said, I will load the second video for you to click yourself after the first one has finished. And then with this, if you don't mind, I would like to close tonight's session. Do you have any questions or comments before I start the video?
No, but in the last 3 minutes I didn't hear you at all. Your voice was gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I'm glad it came back now before you hang up because I didn't know what to do.
Oh! Yeah, so no, I don't know. I know this, there we are. Yeah, things just are always mysterious with technology. How can we say? So here, enjoy this amazing performance with Otto Rubinstein and Andre Previn as the conductor, and it's quite fabulous.
So we are going to see you on Monday?
Yes, we will have another session on Monday evening, and so I have to see which topic, but I will look this weekend to email you on Monday morning.
Okay.
So enjoy this amazing music for a beautiful musical Valentine's celebration. So here we go.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, and good evening to both of you.
Bye-bye.
Good evening, Claudia.
Bye-bye.